still have a stool. I'm on 3 milk crates right now. The stool I had before didn't work out and it's gone, so now we haven't had one. We usually stand here, but this is the only way I could make it work with the video. I'm still back here with the ice cider. Some book recommendations. In case any of you have wine lovers in your lives who like to read as well. I'm just going to start from the top of the pile. I'm going to rip through these because there's not much time left till Christmas, and again, I have to travel, and if I don't go to bed, I'm going to get killed. Bacchus and Me by Jay McKinnery. I read him when I was back in college, the book Ransom, and I liked his writing style. I don't remember, liking the arc of the story in the end, but I appreciated his writing style, and I appreciated it in this book. He was asked to write a column for a magazine, and even though he didn't ostensibly, he wasn't a wine expert, he was a wine drinker, and so he went on a little quest, and much of it takes place in France, and it's kind of Francophile in a way, or Franco-dephile sometimes, but it's a very interesting read. Lots of stories about Bordeaux, and just wine in general, wine history, wine philosophy. Not too in-depth, a little bit biting and sarcastic. Very, it's a fun read. You can read it anywhere, any one of the columns. This is one I loaned to my grandfather, and he really enjoyed. It's called Wine and War. It is about, the subtitles, The French, the Nazis, and the Battle for France's Greatest Treasure. And this book basically talks about what was happening during World War II when France was occupied, and what the French did basically to protect their wine as best they could through just so many methods. And it was extremely complicated and an amazing political situation, because the Nazis wanted to be able to have France be a breadbasket for them and be able to produce the wine on a regular basis, so they tried to preserve the wine production in some way, and it just led to some very complicated relationships that had to be managed. And it's amazing that they were able to keep the houses alive as long as they did, because many of them were involved with the resistance. So I'll go back through these in a second. Oh, actually, the author is Don and Petey Kladstrup. I don't know anything about them, but I know that this was a very interesting read. And anybody of the World War II generation that is a wine person would probably find this very interesting. The Widow Cliquot by Tilar J. Mazzeo. I think that's how you say it. This is a story about the Veuve Cliquot, who is basically responsible in some ways, they say, for the process of dégorgement, to the way that you get the yeast that's settled from the secondary fermentation of champagne, and the trial and tribulations of a woman who, once widowed, took over the estate and managed to make it into a famous and quality house that was sought after by the czars of Russia. And even though Napoleonic Wars basically rolled through and trashed the vineyards and things like that. So it's an interesting read. It's a very much later read than Wine and War is. This woman is a new author, I guess. I think this is her first book, and it's she has to put together a lot of pieces. So there's some conjecture as far as how she wraps the factual stuff, but I think she definitely had to do a lot of research and had to work really hard to knit the story together, and based on what documentation she could find. And so, this is a fun read as well. The Billionaire's Vinegar. This is the book that's been out for a while, I think, but it's by Benjamin Wallace, and this is about Bill Koch and his crusade to take down people who are making fake wine or falsifying old wine bottles and selling them for multi-millions of dollars. And the story of him chasing down Hardy Rodenstock and a supposed Jefferson bottle. So he's been covered in Wine Spectator just recently, and the New Yorker covered this book when it came out originally. So very interesting if you're into the high-priced wine markets. And now the final one. This is a book that, if you like maps and you like wine, this is an amazing book. I can't say that I've read the whole thing because, I mean, maps and lots of information, like right down to the vineyards. This is crazy, the amount of information put forth by Hugh Johnson and Jancis Robinson. This is the 6th edition of this book. Two people who have just an immense amount of wine knowledge between their two brains. They're like huge databases. If somehow we can keep them alive, pumping with wine, we need to keep their, this is a way to soak up their knowledge, and you can have a bottle of wine from just about anywhere and probably find at least the neighborhood in this book, if not the town, and maybe even the label sometimes. Fascinating. This is a great reference tool for anybody that's in the wine industry. You really got to have one of these. Anybody that's in wine service or anybody that just likes wine. Somebody that you give this to will be happy for a really long time. So it's the holiday time, and anyways, just for any kind of gifts, I think books are a great thing, and even people who don't read, if they like wine, it might get them to read a little bit more, which I think is a good thing for your brain. We do a lot of video stuff, and that's where we're oriented now, but still books are a good thing, and there'll be text on this site too, because we like to do some writing here, and it helps the search engines find you. So anyways, read on, have a good night, and thanks for coming.